When you stop contacting her, this is what actually happens. Let me ask you something. When you stopped contacting her, did it feel powerful? Or did it feel like you were fighting the urge to break first? Because silence doesn't automatically make her miss you. Silence actually reveals what was already there. Today I'm going to show you exactly how that plays out. Jessica OS here, welcome to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to break down what actually happens when you stop contacting a woman stage by stage, what goes on in her mind, why some women come back, why some don't, and the mistake that quietly destroys your leverage if you don't understand this correctly. By the end, you'll stop guessing and start seeing the situation for what it really is. Now stay with me, because this is where most dating advice out there won't tell you the whole truth. The very first thing that happens when you stop contacting her is not what most men expect. It's not panic or desperation, neither is it regret. It's a pause. And this pause is where most men lose their footing emotionally. Because when you go silent, there's usually no immediate response, no angry text, no dramatic reaction or sudden realization on her part. Just quiet. And that quiet makes men assume they've already lost. But that assumption is wrong. What's happening in the moment is not emotional, it's structural, okay? You were part of her routine. You were the one checking in. You were the one initiating. You were the one keeping that connection warm and alive. Even in relationships that feel mutual, there's often one person who still carries the rhythm. When that rhythm suddenly stops, the system doesn't collapse. It pauses. I want you to think about it like this. When a familiar noise in your house suddenly disappears, you don't panic immediately, do you? You just kind of notice. You register that absence. Your brain starts adjusting to the change. And that's exactly kind of like what's happening here. She notices that something is different, even if she doesn't consciously react to it. The predictability is gone. The certainty is gone. And remember, certainty is actually what allows people to relax and take things for granted. Now, this is where men make a critical mistake. They interpret the lack of an immediate response as proof that they don't matter. But silence doesn't mean she doesn't care. Hear me. Silence means she's recalibrating her expectations of you. And this is uncomfortable because basically up until now, access to you may have felt very guaranteed. So here's the real question you need to ask yourself during the pause. Were you valued for who you were, or relied on for how consistently you showed up for her? That distinction matters more than anything else that follows, because if you were valued, the pause becomes noticeable. If you were merely available, the pause barely registers. This is why this stage feels so difficult for a lot of men, because you're not being rejected in real time. You're being removed from the pattern. And removal from the pattern creates uncertainty, not just on your side, but on hers as well. You see, if your absence truly didn't matter, she wouldn't need to adjust to it at all. The fact that there's a pause actually means that something has changed, something has shifted. The dynamic is no longer running on autopilot, and that's the point. This stage is not about winning. It has everything to do with observation. It's about resisting the urge to rush in and fill the silence just to relieve your own anxiety. Because the moment you break this pause prematurely, what you do is you restore that old pattern. You tell her, without saying a word, that access to you is still guaranteed. And once access is guaranteed, attraction no longer has to work. This is why stage 1 matters so much. It's the only moment where the old dynamic actually stops long enough for the truth to surface. Now, whether that truth works in your favor or not will depend on what I'm about to say next. After the pause settles in, something subtle but important begins to happen. Curiosity takes over. She's not sitting there missing you in a romantic type of way. She's not replaying your laugh or scrolling through old photos just yet. What she's doing is trying to make some kind of sense of that whole disruption that's going on. Her brain is asking very simple questions. Why did he stop? What has changed? Did I misread the situation? Is he pulling away on purpose? Or did I lose my place in his life? This stage is mental, not emotional. And that distinction matters. You see, men often mistake curiosity for desire. They assume that because she's thinking about them, she must be missing them. And thinking and choosing are not the same thing. Curiosity is about control. Desire is about attachment. What silence does at this stage is remove certainty. And certainty is the thing that kills attraction quietly over time. When someone knows that they have access to you whenever they want, they stop actively valuing that access. Silence interrupts that assumption. This is also where overthinking begins. She starts replaying small moments she didn't think mattered before. Conversations she brushed off, time she delayed in responding to your messages, moments where she assumed that you'd basically always be there because suddenly that guarantee is gone. But hold up. Overthinking doesn't mean regret yet. It means reassessment. She's recalculating your position in her life now that the rules have changed. Let me say this clearly. If she never valued you beyond your consistency, curiosity fades quickly. But if you represented emotional safety, presence, or stability, curiosity lingers longer than she expects. And this stage is difficult because curiosity creates hope. It may force you to start reading into small signs, a delayed post, a vague quote, a subtle reaction, and suddenly every breadcrumb feels like confirmation that your silence is working. But hope without clarity is how you stay stuck. Here's the real test during that stage. Can you stay grounded while she's uncertain? You see, this stage is where most men either regain emotional footing or give it away by acting too soon. Because curiosity only works in your favor when you don't rush to resolve it. Stay tuned, because what comes next determines whether curiosity turns into testing or into closure. After curiosity settles in, many women look for information without exposure. And in modern dating, that's pretty much social media, right? Don't think she wants to chase you or suddenly wants you back. That's not what this is. Social media offers something very specific. Observation without vulnerability. And this is especially if you're active on social media, right? So she wants to see how you're moving on now that you're no longer checking in. Are you still posting the same way? Do you look lighter or heavier emotionally? Do you seem unaffected, or are you broadcasting your pain? Did your life continue or did you stall? This stage isn't about you. It's about contrast, right? She's subconsciously comparing two versions of you. The version she had access to and the version she no longer has access to. And here's where silence either works quietly in your favor or completely backfires. You see, if your online presence suddenly becomes reactive, indirect, or emotionally loud, you erase the memory. Sad quotes, bitter captions, forced stoicism, performative happiness, all of it sends the same message. Hear me. You're still orbiting the situation, and orbiting kills leverage. The goal here is not to look unbothered. The goal is to look occupied. There's a big difference. Unbothered looks fake when it's forced. Occupied looks real because it is. This is also why women often watch without engaging. They'll watch your stories, all right, but they'll never message you. They're gathering data, not trying to be seen. Liking a post or reacting too early will expose interest. Watching quietly keeps the upper hand. Let me be very clear. A story view is not a signal. A like is not a decision. A follow or unfollow is not a verdict. Men get stuck here because they treat observation as intention. But observation only tells you one thing. Your absence is registered, nothing more. Because now the narrative shifts from he needed me to he adopted without me, right? And that's what makes this stage powerful. You see, if you get this stage right, you don't create pressure, you create contrast. And contrast is what sets up the next phase, if there is one. Look, if this is making sense so far, do me a favor and hit that like button. It tells the algorithm to push this to more men who need to hear it. And it lets me know that you want more straight talk like this, right? If you haven't subscribed yet as well, please, maybe you should. We talk about real relationship dynamics here and not fantasy advice. If the connection mattered to her in any meaningful way, curiosity eventually looks for confirmation. And that's where testing begins. This is not romance or vulnerability. It's not her suddenly realizing that she wants you back. In actual fact, this is just access checking. Okay? At this stage, she's no longer just wondering what happened. She wants to know whether the door to you is actually closed or if it's still open. So the test comes disguised as something harmless. A casual text that pretends nothing's wrong. A random question she could have answered herself. A memory from the past delivered without context. A reaction to your story that requires minimal effort. None of these are accidents. They're probes. She's not asking for connection just yet. She's checking your availability. And this is where a lot of men undo what they've tried to build so far. Because, you see, the moment that message comes in, right, that emotional surge will hit you. If you feel relieved, validation, hope, you feel seen again, chosen again, relevant again, right? And without realizing it, you respond the same way that you always did. Fast, warm, over-explaining, emotionally open. And the test is passed, but not in your favor. What she learns in that moment is simple. Access to you never actually changed. She didn't lose anything. She just paused it. You see, and this is why silence alone is not enough. Silence without a shift in posture is just delay. Here's the distinction most men miss. You see, you don't pass the stage by being cold. You pass it by being grounded. Grounded looks calm. It looks measured. It looks like you're not rushing to reclaim your position. It looks like you're responding from choice and not relief. A grounded response doesn't punish her. It does not reward her either. It simply reflects a new reality. And that new reality is this. You're no longer going to be automatically available. If her interest was shallow, the testing will stop. She withdraws. The effort won't be worth it. But if there was real attachment, testing will escalate. The messages will become warmer, the effort increases, the tone shifts. She starts trying to reestablish emotional footing instead of just checking access. And even at this point, there's still no guarantee of reconciliation. Hear me. What this stage does is to clarify intent. Tests reveal whether she misses the connection or simply misses the attention. And that difference determines everything that follows. You see, stage 4 is not about winning her back. It is about not losing yourself the moment validation returns. Guys hardly prepare for this stage because it's the one that doesn't feed hope, fantasy, or control. It feeds truth. This stage begins when the dust settles. The pause has passed. Curiosity either lingered or faded. Testing either happened or didn't. And now, the situation reveals itself without noise. At this point, you may be tempted to ask yourself, did it work? I feel that that question only keeps you trapped. The right question you should be asking is, what did this time show me? Because silence always produces an outcome. It's just not always the one men want. Sometimes the outcome is obvious. She reaches out with effort. She tries to reconnect. She wants to talk. She wants to revisit what was lost, right? In that case, silence didn't create attraction. It revealed that attraction already existed, but was maybe buried under routine or over-availability. Other times, nothing happens. Yep, there's no message, no test, no curiosity that turns into any kind of action. And this is where you suffer the most because nothing feels worse than unanswered silence. But hear me, guys, this is also where the greatest clarity lives. If she doesn't feel your absence enough to act, it means the connection was not anchored the way you believed it was. And that hurts not because you failed, but because the illusion breaks. Guys, hear me. Silence does not punish her. It removes the buffer that kept you from seeing the truth. This stage will force you to confront the hard reality. You can't negotiate desire. You cannot reason someone else into valuing you. You can't earn commitment by showing up harder when someone is already leaning away. If she doesn't return, it doesn't mean you are unworthy. It means the relationship was not reciprocal, and staying attached to a one-sided dynamic could have cost you far more than walking away. Acceptance is power. When you accept the outcome without chasing, without bitterness, without self-blame, you stop orienting your life around someone who's no longer choosing you. And paradoxically, this is the point where men become most attractive again. Not to her specifically, but to life. I hope this video helped give you clarity. If it did, well, smash that like button and subscribe.